Hey guys, it's Red Nomster, and today what I have for you is a Minecraft invention. Now, as you can see in front of us, we have an iron door that's locked at the end of the hallway, and in between us is a sea of observer blocks. Now, as you can tell by the title of this video, this is the observing floor. Now, the observing floor will keep track of a player and or mob's movement, and decide whether or not the pattern that they walked to get to the door is what is going to open the door. Now, that may be a little bit difficult to understand, so I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate it for you. I, of course, already know the pattern to walk because I, of course, created it, but something to keep in mind is that this is 100% customizable, and you can make your own pattern as you see fit. So we'll go ahead and walk this last bend over here. And ta-da, the door is open. Go ahead and walk into our super secret base. It's pretty fantastic. Now, there are two things you have to do in order to get the door to open. First of all, you have to walk the correct pattern. If I just walk in a straight line all the way there, it will of course not open the door in any way, shape, or form. And the second limiting factor is that if I walk the course too quickly, the door will not open. Now, the biggest reason I have speed as a restriction is because that makes this spam-proof, essentially idiot-proof. We can't just run around all willy-nilly and hope to God that this door will open, because that's just not how the system works. It would take a very, very long time of doing that, and a lot of piston sounds later, maybe the door will open. But essentially, it's the same as guessing somebody's 4-digit PIN number on their iPhone. Unless you know them personally, maybe it's like a birthday or something, that's how that might work. Alrighty, hold on to your butts, because we're going to go through how this works for the 5th time in post, because it's actually a little bit more complicated than I thought to explain. But if you understand how item elevators work, you probably understand how this works. Now, as you can see, there's a bunch of stuff everywhere, but it's actually extremely easy to build and understand once you kind of get the gist of it. So I'll try to explain it as simply as possible. So, like I said, if you know how item elevators work, you'll probably understand this, because it works the exact same way an item elevator does, just on a very slow subsequent system. Words with S's. Basically, once we hit this button right here, which can be anything, it could just be a pressure plate, doesn't even have to really be a button, it could just be an item being spit out on a clock repeatedly after every 5 minutes once it despawns. Anyways, we have an item right here, coming out of a dropper, which connects to the button. This is essentially what initiates the course to be ran, or the pattern to be ran to unlock the door. We have this little guy right here. Now, this all works off of how items work with air and solid blocks. If I pop a hole right there, as you can see, there are only air blocks above these glass blocks, these green glass blocks, I should say, and there are only air blocks under these white blocks. So that little gap right there, that one tall gap, that's where the maze is for the item that tracks the player. Now, if we put that block back, kaboom, the way we move the item is through pressure, which is the same way item elevators work. Once an item has a block inside of it, the mechanics behind Minecraft say that the item should travel to the closest air block, and that being this little guy right here. Instead of up, down, left, right, I covered the entire thing with glass, so it can only go in this direction, and I will show you how that works up here, very simply. So once we step on this observer block that is facing downwards, as you can see, if I move this piston, that's the little puckered butthole that faces the sticky piston, which points down and moves the blocks. This string activates the observer block with a bud switch, which is the best palatable way and most seamless way I can figure out how to do it. If we go ahead and walk through it, it activates it, and once we step off, it deactivates it. Now, it works off of a monostable circuit, which is one of the main reasons as to why this is speed limited, but that actually allows us to lessen the amount of resources we need for this to work, because with just one observer block, it's a monostable circuit. If we chain 2 of them together to make it a bigger delay, it would actually create something that's a 2-tick pulse, and anything past 1 observer block is a 2-tick pulse, so it's kind of a unique system. But the reason that this maze works in and of itself with a monostable circuit is because of how the observer blocks work. So if I step on these two, as you can see, those 2 gold blocks down there are always 2 gold blocks at one single time. If I step off, the item will still be on the left side of this block that I'm on because it's out of pressure. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate that again. Just keep an eye on the gold blocks. There are always 2 at a time. See? So let's go ahead and demonstrate how that looks over here with this guy. So we have this little guy down here, still, as you can see. And once I step on the first block, the first, correct block, the item shall be pushed in this direction. Let's go over here. Ta-da. Step off. As you can see, now it's on the second block. So the only way it can go is either this way or this way. But if I'm coming from this direction towards the item, there should already be a block here, because that piston and that piston are both activated, meaning it can only go in this direction. Now I know you might be thinking, how do corners work? Well, it's the exact same concept. If there's a block here being pushed down by this sticky piston, it can only go from here to here. It can't go from here to here or in all the other directions because there's already blocks there. So it just corners like this and actually runs the maze pretty well. I did have a problem initially with items flying out, but that was because I had all these pistons right here facing down, and then they'd push down the red glass and that would mess it up. And that all these sideways pistons, if you don't know by now, are basically irrelevant. They do nothing for the system except for make the sound of the system undetectable. So what that means is that when I'm walking on this thing right here, as you can see, it makes piston sounds. That's very clear. There's really no way to hide that because it has to be a one thick observer block. But as you can see, the door opens. Beautiful. But if I walk the wrong course, it sounds the exact same. And that's because we have these sideways dummy pistons that are essentially not pushing this glass down, but also not doing anything else. It's a very, pointless system if you actually want the maze solvable by something like sound or audio. Listening to the pistons, it might be a cool little puzzle or whatnot, but if you're actually using it as some type of security thing, that's a good extra added security right then and there. So if you guys are still watching at this point and not off building it already, I'll go ahead and save you from some trial and error and build it for you right here and now. We've got some upside down observer blocks, and this can go for as long as you'd like. And it can actually be wider as well, but there is a quirk with these pistons that mask the sound of the path, because if there's more pistons in this direction, if this piston goes off, it pushes all of these, so you might have to find another way around that, or just deal with only the path making sound. That's why I kept it to just length instead of length and width, but you can make it wider if you do see fit. It would still, make it more difficult for like mobs to accidentally open the door and whatnot. But for players, it would allow them to, by sound, figure out which way to go. So we have this path right here, and now we just have to put string on said path. Ta-da! And I like to do this before I put all the pistons and stuff in, because this will actually update the observer blocks, which will push all the pistons and push all the blocks out of place that I need to be in place. So we got all of that there, and then we want to make the path with sticky pistons. So let's go ahead and make it like this. Comes around here. Just a simple bend, and then goes right in the center. So very simple path. The longer you make it, the more difficult it will be. You can even just make it a straight line to mess with people's minds, but that might not be too successful. And then everything else we want to be a sideways facing piston. Now there's an important thing right here, which is the two layered pistons. This is actually something you can do if you want to make it one wider as well, is that with the indents, such as right here where there's two pistons, if this piston goes off and pushes this out of the way, that's no good, because then this piston will no longer be under this observer block to make sound when you walk over it, meaning the player will know that that is no longer a place that he needs to walk. You can actually just put a sticky piston right here, and already we can show you that these pistons work, but once I walk over this middle one right here, it'll push that one out. And it won't get stuck out there because it retracts before this one extends. Now if we went like this, and then went right here, it does the same thing, and still gets sucked in. Very nice and easy, and all works off the fact that it's monostable circuits with the observer blocks. So next we have to push a block into the item. So under all the sticky pistons that are facing downwards, we want to put a block, and then I'm just going to color code it just so you guys understand more simply. This right here is the path in which the item actually lands on with its physical body, rather than just follows. So once you build the physical path for the item, you actually have to build the input and output for said item. Now the input is simply a dropper, and make sure it's a dropper because anything such as lava or arrows will just shoot out and maybe even catch things on fire. If that is the case, a dropper will just spit out whatever item's in there. Now put any unused item, sticky pistons, probably not the most efficient because they're expensive. Things like sticks or planks, things that you can get in abundance. And you can even have a hopper going into this thing that fills it back up with the chest. There's no big worry about that whatsoever. Now what we have to do is actually add an output, which is simply a block and a wooden pressure plate. Now a wooden pressure plate needs to be instead of a stone pressure plate because a stone will not allow an item to activate it, but wood will. So now that the basics are done, what we have to do is simply cover the entire thing in glass. Now make sure that the glass surrounds everything even adjacently, because for example, if we have the item right here on this side of the glass block, it will actually see air here before it sees air over there. And that's not good because then it will sink down there. And that's a problem I had in the beginning. So just make sure everything is all item elevated up and basically plastic wrapped with any type of block that's solid enough. I use glass just to see if there is some type of mistake. without having to circle it a bunch. Da-da-da. Do this real quick. Alright, everything looks all cubed up except for the very end right over here. And we also want to put the blocks like this as well. And the best way to do it, I actually did it differently over here. With this pressure plate, I built adjacently right here, which sometimes it does slide out of there. But for the most part, there's an air block right here, so it slides into here and sits here. So that's the only exception where you can do it adjacently. But I'm going to go ahead and cover these up right here. And the redstone, of course, will be activated from right here. Now, after all things are said and done, I do like to add that little green ghost path up there to follow, just because I don't like jumping back down, because I don't have a photographic memory. I don't know about you. I keep messing up this end of itself, so if anything is much longer than this is a good little tip for you guys. So I think I have hit the button, got the item. Let's go ahead and give it a test run. Should be able to do this first try now, and if not, I'm just stupid. Here we go. And it's a good idea to slow down on the corners just to ensure that the item won't try to fly through the wall. I might have done that in the beginning of the video, I'm not sure. Sometimes you can get lucky with it, but sometimes it's better just to do this. Now, as you can see, the item is no longer over there. It followed the green path all the way to this pressure plate right in the middle there. Oh, baby, beautiful. That can activate any input you would like, such as a door, or maybe some type of secret entrance, or, you know, unlock your chests in case if it's like a guild room, only your teammates know how to open this sort of lock. But there we go, observing floor. I don't even know. I don't think I've seen anything like this before. So if you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, and of course subscribe if you're new here. It helps me out a lot, and I'll see you in the next video. That's my mouse. You like it? I like it.